Well, when we're fasting like this, it allows the tight junctions in our gut and on our gut lining to start to heal and repair. We get obviously less mechanical stress because we don't have food going through our system. So there's less wear and tear on the gut. So we start to get a healing and repair process that gets stimulated. Also, in our gut, when we talk about the bacterial balance in our gut, the microbiome, researchers have been looking at this for the last 20 years, and they found that the higher amount of diversity, or the larger number of different types of bacterial species in your gut, the healthier metabolically you're going to be and the lower levels of inflammation you're going to be. Well, we used to think that we had to eat all this plant fiber in order to create diversity. But what research has shown is that actually eating every few hours is one of the worst things you can do for diversity. See, we have two categories of feeders in our gut. We have one category is called our primary feeders. They live right above the gut mucosa. So right on top of the intestinal lining, we have a layer of mucus, and that helps protect the gut lining. It's also where the immune system in the gut, in fact, about 80% of our immune system is in that mucosa, the mucosa that lines the intestinal tract. And so when we're eating all the time, we're feeding the primary feeders. The secondary feeders live within the mucosa. So they live deep within the mucosa. And if we're eating every few hours, we overfeed the primary feeders, so they get a lot of fuel, and they actually crowd out and they release compounds that kill or reduce the amount of secondary feeders in that gut mucosa, which actually makes the mucosa weaker, and it lowers the amount of mucosa, so we get less of an immune response in our gut, and we're more susceptible to breaking down our gut, creating a condition called intestinal permeability or leaky gut, which drives up whole body inflammation, and it can increase our risk of autoimmune conditions and chronic inflammatory conditions. So by fasting, taking time away from meals, what we actually do is we start to trim down the primary feeders, and that allows these secondary feeders. There's one in particular called Akkermansia muciniphila. Muciniphila means mucus loving. And that means it can actually eat mucus. So when food is not around, it will actually eat the mucus, and it will actually stimulate the goblet cells in the intestinal surface to produce more mucus. And so now we're producing more thicker, healthier mucus lining, which increases the immune capacity in our gut and reduces the overall tension and stress on the intestinal lining. And Akkermansia, higher amounts of Akkermansia have actually been shown, they've been correlated with lower levels of inflammatory diseases and better overall metabolic health, lower risk of fatty liver disease, diabetes, obesity, better overall metabolic health, and lower risk of autoimmune conditions. And so Akkermansia, what it does is when it eats food, so now we do the fast, now we're consuming food, okay? When we consume food, particularly food that's rich in polyphenols, like for example, extra virgin olive oil or oregano or rosemary or green tea or broccoli, all these different plant foods that are rich in polyphenols, those polyphenols, Akkermansia eats those, and it produces something called urolithin A. And urolithin A actually stimulates the mitochondria within the intestinal cells to break down damage, increase what we call mitophagy. So they break down damaged mitochondria, regenerate new healthy mitochondria, and we create a stronger, more stress-resilient intestinal lining. And again, the integrity of that intestinal lining is absolutely critical to keeping inflammation under control, and as well as our overall metabolic rate. So amazing things happen when we're doing a 24-hour fast. One of the best ways to reset the microbiome is going through a 20 to up to 24-hour fast. Incredible for that.